There are 7 gang leaders, but 1 city. So who actually runs Makochi when it's time to fight? I'll be ranking and explaining each one. Let's start things off with number 7, Shingo Natori, a gang leader who walks around swinging a massive club like he's got something to prove, because he does. Without the army of lackeys he bullies into line, almost any halfway decent Windbreaker fighter could beat him. His style is unorthodox. He doesn't rely much on technique or speed. Instead, he uses whatever's around him, bats, crates, or any blunt object, to overwhelm his opponents. That style and decent fighting IQ allow him to catch people off guard, as seen when he briefly surprised Ren Kaji for like 12 seconds until Kaji decided to get serious. That's when things fell apart for him. Shingo couldn't take 10 solid hits before passing out. As a leader, he uses fear rather than respect, using violence to assert his authority over his team. Instead of earning loyalty, he beats the crap out of his team and puts the fear of God in them. He's got a decent fighting IQ, sure, but without a group of people backing him up, his presence loses most of its power. And number 6 is Shuhei Suzuri, a street fighter who talks like he's playing an open world RPG. He's not about raw strength. He's calm, collected, and always moving like he's got his own background music. Kind of hypnotic. He'll throw flying knees and high kicks without even blinking. He's not flashy, but he's efficient. He even held his ground against Tsubakino, one of Bofurin's 4 kings, right up until Tsubaki launched Talk no Jutsu, with a full-on speech about love and emotions. I wonder if he could have tanked Tsubakino if he didn't get talked out of it. He did beat Shingo for sure though. After he left his gang, he came back to help Bofurin and show Keel and Noshiro that the scum of Tsunaba still know how to throw down. His style is laid back, but Suzuri's leadership is also no joke. He grew up with no parents, with just the streets and his gang, Gravel, which is made up of former homeless orphans from the Subana district. But despite his rough upbringing, instead of turning cold, Suzuri became a caring and responsible leader, a kind of leader who shares what little he has. Clothes, rent, food. Everyone eats if he eats. That's why Gravel follows him, not out of fear, but loyalty. And number 5 is Kanji Nakamura, the leader of Roppo Ichiza, known for his incredible strength and stamina. He looks like your textbook club bouncer, if the bouncer wasn't that jacked and could knock out 10 guys before you finish a drink. During the confrontation with Gravel, Kanji showed no hesitation. Kanji didn't back down for a second and continued fighting until the battle was over. His physical power is immense. He's often able to end fights with a single punch. And in terms of raw strength, he just might be on the same level as Tsubakino. While Suzuri also held his own against Tsubakino, Kanji's strength stands out due to the pressure he exudes in battle. In fact, even Sakura Haruka noted that Kanji gave off a similar aura to Umeya. He doesn't waste time. He fights like he's on the clock. He's quick, brutal, and always ready to throw down. Kanji's highly respected. It's no surprise that he's got a crew of extremely loyal followers. Guys would gladly follow him into a storm, purely out of respect. That being said, Kanji is not exactly the calmest guy on the battlefield. In the middle of the Roppo vs Gravel clash, he completely lost it, nearly decking Sakura during a heated moment. I would have loved to see them go down, by the way. Kanji goes from 0 to unhinged fast. You don't know whether he's about to save you or accidentally break your face. Still, when he's locked in, there's almost no one better to have on your side. Just maybe don't stand too close. At number 4 is Yamato Endo, the co-leader of Noroshi. Once called a prodigy in everything from school to sports, and then gang violence. Endo isn't your usual gang leader. He doesn't want power. He doesn't want fame. He just wants to feed someone else's hunger for chaos, for destruction. This dude just wants to see Takashi happy like he's his wife or something. Formerly from Furin, Endo made his first proper appearance at the end of the Keel arc, and we see him later after the brutal clash between Roppo Ichiza and Gravel in the Red Light District. Just one look was all it took. Tsubakino froze. He actually warned Sakura not to make a move. Even Sakura, no stranger to killers, felt the weight and pressure. He is fast, precise, and overwhelms his opponents with his raw strength. And he is brutal with his moves, with knees to the face and stomps on the head. We can see this in his fight with Sakura during the gang war. But here's what makes Endo different. He's not chasing a title, he's not protecting anything. The only reason he fights is to satisfy Takashi. That obsession is why Noroshi exists. It's what led him to start a full-scale gang war with Furin, just to help Takashi fight with Umeya. We don't see him fight a lot, but from what little we've seen, it's enough to put him above Furin's 4 kings. He took out Tsubakino, Suzuri, and Nakamura at the same time by himself, even though they were exhausted. Still, those 3 are insanely strong fighters. The only one who ever beat him was Takashi himself. But even that's complicated, because Endo never fought back. He just stood there like, "Please hurt me, senpai." So the question is, what happens if he finally lets go of Takashi? What happens if his obsession shifts to Sakura? Well, firstly, Sakura will need to get a restraining order immediately. And number 3 is Choji Tommyyama, the leader of Shishitorin, who thinks freedom means being strong enough to beat the crap out of anyone he sees. Choji is the youngest leader in Shishitorin's history, and Choji didn't climb the ranks with politics or respect. He got there with his sheer fighting strength. Along with Togame, they dominated their opponents, even taking down a whole Zenk gang by themselves when they just joined Shishitorin. Soon they climbed the ranks and became first and second in command at Shishitorin. But here's the truth, Choji wasn't a great leader. For him, being a gang leader was to be free and being able to do whatever he wanted. Basically, the Lulu CEO energy. But the leader position was bland and full of responsibilities, so he took it out on his weaker teammates, kicking them out if they weren't strong enough. Lucky for him, they didn't have HR. He is widely known to be as strong as Umeya, and for a little guy, he is insanely strong in terms of raw power. He's also fast and agile. In Tsuo's words, Choji is like a natural-born monster, and it's hard to predict his moves. He also has a childlike personality and treats fighting like fun. He smiles and grins while stomping a guy in the face. He gave Umeya a hard time with his fighting technique in their one-on-one fight. But even Choji had to admit defeat to Umeya, who told him straight up that you used to hit harder. That line hit deeper than any punch for Choji. After that loss, he changed. Instead of chasing chaos, he chased purpose. And when the gang war broke out, it was Choji and Shishitorin who pulled up to save both of them. And number 2 is Chika Takashi, the co-leader of Noroshi and the man known as the strongest fighter in Furin's history. But Takashi doesn't fight for pride or power. He fights because he just likes violence. He's short-tempered and explodes at the smallest provocations. Even Yamato Endo, his right hand, and the emotional support psychopath, is not spared from Takashi's rage. But he isn't some mindless brute. Watching him fight is like watching a performance. He is brutal, acrobatic, and almost mesmerizing. Endo once described it best, like he's dancing in a frenzy, surrounded by flying embers. Takashi doesn't care if he wins or loses. He only cares about the fight. That makes him dangerous, because he has nothing to protect and nothing to lose. He's only interested in landing the next hit. In his showdown with Umeya, he proved why people call him Furin's best. He knocked Umeya down. Skill for skill, he had the edge. But Umeya brought Takashi down with his unbreakable and unbeatable resolve. That's why Takashi quit the fight. Now, outside of Endo and Umeya, Takashi doesn't care about anyone or anything. He can't even remember the names or faces of the people he beats down. He is that indifferent. Takashi is used to always getting what he wants, or Endo gets it for him, like how he got in his fight with Umeya. Between these beatdowns and arson, maybe Endo should also get him some therapy. By the end of the fight on the rooftop, after Umeya's words about people and feelings, something changed. Takashi enjoyed the rain, which he used to hate, and even called Endo by his name. Is this where the change begins? And will that make him stronger or weaker? And number 1 is Hajime Umeya, the leader of Bofuren. Since his first year, Umeya has been taking on the Noroshi, shutting down outside gangs and rebuilding Furen High from the ground up. He didn't just rise to the top, he dragged the school up with him. But that's not where his legend began. Even as a kid, he never had it easy. He lost his family when he was 9, ended up in an orphanage of a town full of gang violence. He almost wanted to kill himself through a gang fight, but got saved thanks to a senior from Furen High who gave him purpose. After that, he became the big brother of all the orphans in town. By the time he entered Furen High, he had the 4 heavenly kings under him, fighting to clean up the school and the gangs in the street. And when it came to prove himself, Umeya never held back. He took down Choji Tommyyama, made the Shishitoran leader admit defeat. He fought Chika, Takashi, and even broke through his madness, Furen's most violent monster. What's crazy is Takashi never cared about winning until he faced Umeya. And for the first time, he actually quit a fight because of Umeya's resolve. It's what makes Umeya win or never lose. He's not just fighting for pride, he fights for his friends, his school, and the broken town he was raised in. But here's the thing, Umeya's greatest weapon isn't his fists, it's his unending, relentless, unstoppable yapping. Umeya's given more speeches than Naruto, and somehow made opponents quit mid-fight. And so with all that power, who do you think is the strongest fighter in Bofuren?